Hi friends, welcome once again to the next session, that is session on geometric constraint. Any geometrical entity in any software like 2D software or 3D software can be constrained by two different methodologies. One is by applying dimensional constraints, the other one is by applying geometrical constraint. So today we are going to discuss regarding how exactly we can apply geometrical constraint, what are the uses of geometrical constraint, and what is the purpose of geometrical constraint. Basically the constraint setting looks like this. You can see here the first tab is geometric. Here you can get 12 different options. They are perpendicular, horizontal, tangent, collinear, symmetric, coincident, parallel, vertical, smooth, concentric, equal, and fixed. These particular constraints are basically applied to geometrical entities with reference to other geometrical entities. Definitely you have to have two different geometrical entities. For example, if I want to apply perpendicular, one line has to be perpendicular with reference to another existing line. That means I am orienting the second geometrical entity with reference to the first geometrical entity. But in case of horizontal, I can select a particular line which is oriented, which is inclined at some angle. I can make it horizontal. Similarly, I can make it vertical also. Whereas in this case, if I want to make parallel, one existing entity, geometrical entity, has to be aligned at some angle. So the other geometrical entity can be oriented with reference to the already oriented geometrical entity. That means the first uh, geometrical entity becomes reference, and the second geometrical entity is aligned with reference to the first geometrical entity. So that is the reason the focus is two different geometrical entities in case of geometric constraint. So I have to focus on two geometrical entities. So if you select infer geometric constraints, automatically geometric constraints would be applied here. If you don't select, it will not be applied automatically. So now we will see what are the uses of these geometrical constraints. Basically they are used to constrain the degrees of freedom of geometrical entities, so that we can control the shape. Basically geometrical constraints are used to control the shape of the geometrical entity. It is used to control shape, location, as well as orientation of the geometrical entity. As I explained earlier, it is applied between the two entities in sketch, except fix. You can also see horizontal and vertical, they are applied independently. We are not applying with reference to existing geometrical entity. The geometrical entity which is selected for the first time changes its shape, orientation, and location with reference to the first geometrical entity. Uh, Always apply geometrical entity before applying dimensional constraint. The reason is, if you apply dimensional constraint and after that if you want to apply geometrical constraint, then the shape changes. It is highly impossible to control the shape. That is the reason always apply geometrical constraint. Later on you can apply the dimensional constraint. As we explained earlier, we have got 12 different constraints: horizontal, vertical, coincident, fixed, perpendicular, parallel, collinear, concentric, symmetric, equal, smooth, and tangent. In AutoCAD, let us see how exactly we can make use of these things. You have to go to home, then later parametric. In parametric you can see 12 symbols here. Then in order to invoke this constraint settings, you have to click here, left click in this area on the arrow mark. So you're going to get the pop-up window like this. Initially you're going to get geometric. In this you're going to get 12 different symbols. Whichever is applicable you can select those things, whichever is not applicable you can switch off if as per your requirement. If you select infer geometrical constraint, automatically the geometrical constraint would be applied to the geometrical entity. So later on we are going to discuss regarding how exactly we can make use of these geometrical entities, but it is just overview on the geometrical constraint. You can see here one example. There is one inclined line. So I want to make it horizontal. Let us select this option and select the geometrical entity. You can observe here there are two different points, point 1 and point 2. So I have to select this particular geometrical entity. If I am going to click this entity on this entity nearby to this point remains constant, whereas the other point will orient with reference to the first point. This remains constant, whereas the second point orients with reference to the first point. Let us select. I am selecting nearby to the first point. You can see here the first point remains as it is, and the second point got oriented with reference to the first point. And you can also see here there is a symbol that is geometrical constraint. Now the geometrical constraint is applied to this geometrical entity. That says that it is horizontal. Right now it is horizontal. You cannot incline the line. That is the meaning of this. Thank you very much. Do subscribe to the videos and keep watching.